My mind rebels at stagnation. Give me problems. Give me work. Give me the most abstruse cryptogram, the most intricate analysis, and I'm in my proper atmosphere. Then I can dispense with artificial stimulants. But I abhor the dull routine of existence. I crave mental exaltation. That is why I've chosen my own profession, or rather, created it, for I am the only one in the world. Then how do you account for the bullet that has so obviously struck the window frame?
By George, however did you see that?
Because, Dr. Carthew, I looked for it. And when did the first cloud cover the sun of this great happiness?
You have a way of putting things, Mr. Holmes.
And you have a way of prevaricating with your answers, Mr. Cubitt. Every problem is absurdly simple when it is explained to you. Bum, bum, bum.
Did I really do remarkably badly?
Yes.
You scoundrel, sir. I've heard of you before. You're Holmes the meddler. Holmes the busybody. Holmes the Scotland Yard Jack in office.
Your conversation really is most entertaining. If you would close the door on your way out.
Gentlemen as you are.
Everybody here will bear witness to the fact that I am acting in self-defense. No, sir. A gentleman. Only a ruffian deals the blow with the back of the hand. A gentleman uses the straight left. And I said I'm a gentleman.
Your control. Bloody panics. It's Lord Blackwood, sir.
Never been in over my head.
It's nothing to do with me, but I advise you leave the case alone.
Solve this.
This was beyond your control. Tomorrow, midday, the world will end.
Right behind you. This cost us the rent more than once.
Well, with all due respect, Mr. Holmes, you know John very well. What about a complete stranger? What can you tell about me?
You? I don't think that's... I don't know that that's...
Not a dinner.
Perhaps some other time.
I insist.
You insist?
You remember we discussed this?
The lady insists. You're a governess.
Well done.
Yes, well done. Shall we... Waiter.
Your student. It's a boy of age.
Charlie's 7, actually.
Well, finished tall for his age. He flicked ink at you today.
Is there ink on my face?
There's nothing wrong with your face.
There are 2 drops on your ear, in fact. India blue's nearly impossible to wash off. Anyway, a very impetuous act by the boy, but you're too experienced to react rashly, which is why the lady for whom you worked lent you that necklace. Oriental pearls, diamonds, a flawless ruby, hardly the gems of governors. However, the jewels you are not wearing tell us rather more.
Holmes.
You were engaged. The ring is gone, but the lighter skin where it once sat suggests that you spent some time abroad wearing it proudly. That is, until you were informed of its true and rather modest worth, at which point you broke off the engagement and returned to England for better prospects. Doctor, perhaps?
Emotional level. First, distract target. Then block his blind jab. Counter with cross to left cheek. Discombobulate. Dazed, will attempt wild haymaker. Employ elbow block. And body shot. Block ferrule left. Weaken right jaw. Now fracture. Break cracked ribs. Traumatize solar plexus. Dislocate jaw entirely. Heel kick to diaphragm. In summary, ears ringing, jaw fractured, 3 ribs cracked, 4 broken, diaphragm hemorrhaging. Physical recovery 6 weeks. Full psychological recovery 6 months. Capacity to spit it back of head.
Good evening, Watson.
Holmes! Oh, you scared me half out of my wits, Mr. Holmes.
I thought I made it entirely clear that under no circumstances whatsoever was anybody to be allowed in here without my express permission.
But you looked as though you were dying.
There'll be no exceptions made, Watson.
Oh, good heavens, my roast!
Now, where's the shipping column?
This criminal in the country. Why don't the police do something about him?
Take care, Watson. If it should ever come to the professor's ear that you call him a criminal, you may very well find yourself sued for slander.
Oh, but we all know.
Knowing and proving something are 2 very different matters, Watson, as I need hardly remind you. It's my duty to bring him to justice.
But how do you propose to do that?
Cooper will take her statement. But why did the killer take Blackburn's wedding ring?
Maybe he didn't wear one.
Oh, that's right. I can't remember Peter wearing a wedding ring.
No. Then I suggest we send for the butler.
Ask the butler to come here.
Oh, there you are. Do you recall whether Mr. Blackburn wore his wedding ring above or below the serpent ring?
Below the serpent ring, sir.
You're quite sure?
I would swear to it.
We shall see what the inspector makes of that.
Watson! You nearly broke my arm.
What's going on?
Did you catch him?
Watson nearly caught me.
It's ridiculous to search any more in the dark. Inspector!
I'm blessed if I know why on earth you want all these clippings about this Baskerville fellow.
I've an idea, Watson, that young Sir Henry isn't destined for a very long existence in this world.
What?
My conjecture is that he'll be murdered.
Murdered?
It'll be very interesting to see if my deductions are accurate. Watson, people will stick to facts, even though they prove nothing. Now, if we go beyond facts, use our imagination as the criminal does. Imagine what might have happened and act upon it, as I've been trying to do in this case. We usually find ourselves justified.
Then you know?
Another day, 2 at the most, and I will know. My one fear is that the murderer will strike before we're ready. In that case...
What's that?
Where's it coming from?
There.
No. There. The hound! Come on, Watson, quick!
Well, Mrs. Courtney, so we meet again. No, I shouldn't do that if I were you, Colonel Cavanaugh.
I must congratulate you, Mr. Holmes. You're far more clever than I thought.
Thank you, Mrs. Courtney. Praise from you is indeed gratifying. I shall always cherish the memory of your flattering words.
Memory? Oh, thank you.
And now I have a most regrettable task to perform.
Holmes! Coming, Holmes! Holmes! You all right?
Perfectly, thank you, old fellow, but I think this gentleman on the floor requires some medical attention. We must see that he looks his best, you know, when he's hanged.
How fresh?
Just in. 67 natural causes. Used to work here. I knew him. He was nice.
Fine. We'll start with the riding crop.
It's an old friend of mine, John Watson.
Afghanistan or Iraq?
Sorry?
Which was it, Afghanistan or Iraq?
Is that it?
Is that what?
We only just met, and we're gonna go look at a flat.
Problem?
We don't know a thing about each other. I don't know where we're meeting. I don't even know your name.
I know you're an army doctor and you've been invalided home from Afghanistan. I know you've got a brother who's worried about you, but you won't go to him for help because you don't approve of him, possibly because he's an alcoholic, more likely because he recently walked out on his wife. And I know that your therapist thinks you're limp psychosomatic, quite correctly, I'm afraid. It's enough to be going on with, don't you think? Don't snivel, Mrs. Hudson. It'll do nothing to impede the flight of a bullet. What a tender world that would be.
Oh, please, sorry, Sherlock.
Next, you can stop pointing that gun at me.
So you can point a gun at me?
I'm unarmed.
Mind if I check?
Oh, I insist. Moron.
There is nothing wrong with me. Do you understand?
You want me to prove it, yes? Looking for a dog, yes? Great dog, that's your brilliant theory. Shashalashia. Good, excellent. Yes, where should we start? How about them? The sentimental widow and her son, the unemployed fisherman. The answer's yes.
Yes?
She's got a West Island Terrier called Whiskey. Not exactly what we're looking for.
Sherlock, for God's sake.
Look at the jumper he's wearing. Hardly worn. Clearly he's uncomfortable in it. Maybe it's because of the material. More likely the hideous pattern suggests it's a present, probably Christmas. So he wants into his mother's good books. Why? Almost certainly money. He's treating her to a meal, but his own portion is small. That means he wants to impress her, but he's trying to economize on his own food.
Well, maybe he's just not hungry.
No, small plate, starter. He's practically licked it clean. She's nearly finished her pavlova. If she treated him, he'd have as much as he wanted. He's hungry, all right, and not well off. You can tell that by the state of his cuffs and shoes. How do you know she's his mother? Who else would give him a Christmas present like that? Well, it could be an aunt or an older sister, but mother's more likely. No, he was a fisherman. Scarring pattern on his hands, very distinctive. Fish hooks. They're all quite old now. It suggests he's been unemployed for some time. Not much industry in this part of the world, so he's turned to his widowed mother for help. Widowed? Yes, obviously. She's got a man's wedding ring on a chain around her neck. Clearly her late husband's too big for her finger. She's well dressed, but her jewelry's cheap. She could afford better, but she's kept it sentimental. Now, the dog, tiny little hairs all over the leg from where it gets a little bit too friendly. But no hairs above the knees, suggesting it's a small dog, probably a terrier. In fact, it is a West Island Terrier called Whiskey. How the hell do you know that, Sherlock? Because she was on the same train as us and I heard her calling its name, and that's not cheating. That's listening. I use my senses, John, unlike some people. So you see, I am fine. In fact, I've never been better. So just leave me alone.